Close your eyes for a moment and think about the last time your mind truly went silent. Not sleep, not distraction, not the few seconds between one worry and the next, but real silence. The kind where you are fully present, fully at peace, fully yourself, without the noise, without the pressure, without the weight of everything you have to do, everything you might lose, everything you fear becoming. Can you remember that feeling? If you struggle to answer, if silence feels like a stranger, if peace feels like something that always exists just beyond your reach, then this message was made for you. Because what I want to explore with you today is not a quick fix. It is not a breathing technique or a productivity hack. What I want to offer you is something far older, far deeper, and in many ways far more radical than anything modern psychology has given us. I want to show you what Krishna, one of the most profound spiritual teachers who ever spoke, understood about anxiety thousands of years ago, and why that understanding still holds the answer to what so many of us are going through right now. Stay with me, because what you are about to hear may change the way you see your own mind forever. There is a kind of suffering that does not announce itself loudly. It does not come with broken bones or visible wounds. It does not earn sympathy at dinner tables or concern from doctors. It lives quietly inside the chest, behind the eyes, in the space between waking up and getting out of bed. It is the feeling of lying awake at 3 a.m. with a mind that will not stop moving. It is the exhaustion that sleep does not cure. It is the strange heaviness that descends even on beautiful days, even when nothing is technically wrong. It is the anxiety that follows you into ordinary moments, while you are driving, while you are eating, while you are supposed to be happy. And what makes this kind of suffering so isolating is that it is invisible. From the outside, your life may look perfectly fine. You may have people who love you, work that pays the bills, a future that others would envy, and yet something inside you feels deeply, persistently unwell. Something feels out of place. Something feels like it is always just about to collapse. This is the anxiety of the modern human being, and it is not rare. It is not a sign of weakness. It is not something wrong with you specifically. It is something wrong with how we have been taught to live. Because we have been told by our culture, by our education, by the relentless scroll of images and opinions that fills our screens, that peace is something you earn. That it comes when you achieve enough, earn enough, become enough, that the mind will finally calm down once the right things fall into place. But they never fully fall into place, do they? There is always another goal, another uncertainty, another version of yourself you have not yet become, another thing to fear losing. And so the mind keeps running, keeps calculating, keeps trying to control a future that refuses to be controlled. And we call this anxiety, and we treat it like a malfunction. But what if it is not a malfunction? What if it is something far more important, a signal, a message, a doorway, if only we knew how to read it? More than 5,000 years ago, on the edge of a battlefield called Kurukshetra, a warrior named Arjuna experienced something that no clinical term had yet been invented to describe. He was standing in a chariot, surrounded by armies. The greatest battle of his age was about to begin. He was a trained fighter, a man of extraordinary skill, a person who had spent his entire life preparing for this moment. By every external measure, he was ready. And then he looked across the field. He saw his teachers, his cousins, his uncles, and his friends all standing on the other side, about to become his enemies. He saw the faces of people he had loved, and something inside him broke. His legs gave out, his bow slipped from his fingers, his body went cold. He collapsed into the seat of his chariot and told his companion, his guide, his divine friend Krishna, "I cannot do this. My limbs are failing me. My mouth is dry. My mind is in chaos. I see no point in fighting. I see no point in victory. What is the use of any of it?" This is how the Bhagavad Gita begins. Not with glory, not with battle cries, but with a man in the grip of a complete inner collapse. And I want you to notice something important. Arjuna was not a fragile person. He was not someone who had lived a sheltered life. He was not someone unfamiliar with difficulty. He was, by every measure, a man of enormous strength and capability. And still, he broke. Because the crisis he faced was not about the battle on that field. It was about something far deeper. It was about meaning, about identity, about the unbearable weight of uncertainty, loss, and the impossibility of controlling what comes next. Sound familiar? You may not be standing on a battlefield, but how many mornings have you woken up feeling exactly like Arjuna, knowing that the day demands something from you and feeling completely unable to give it? How many times has the pressure of your life made your own strength feel suddenly, inexplicably inadequate? How many times have you looked at what lies ahead and thought, "I don't know if I can do this"? That is Arjuna's moment, and it is your moment, and it is mine, and it has been the moment of every human being who ever had the courage to be honest about what they feel. This is why the Bhagavad Gita is not just a religious text. It is not just an ancient story. It is one of the most precise and compassionate maps of the human interior ever created. Because it begins exactly where we are, in the middle of crisis, in the middle of confusion, in the middle of the unbearable question, what do I do now? And into that silence, Krishna speaks. What Krishna says to Arjuna in the opening chapters of the Gita is not what you might expect. He does not offer comfort immediately. He does not say, "Everything will be fine," or "You are stronger than you think." He does not minimize the weight of the moment or hand Arjuna a set of instructions to follow. Instead, he looks at his friend, truly looks at him, and he says something that cuts through everything. "You grieve for those who should not be grieved for. The wise grieve neither for the living nor for the dead." Now, on the surface, this sounds almost harsh, almost cold. But listen more carefully, because what Krishna is pointing to is something that the entire science of modern psychology has only recently begun to understand. He is saying, the source of your suffering is not what is happening around you. The source of your suffering is what is happening inside you. And specifically, it is the way your mind is relating to reality. Arjuna is suffering not because of the battle. He is suffering because of what his mind is doing with the battle. He is suffering because he is attached to a particular outcome. He is suffering because he is identified completely, totally identified with his fears, his projections, his anticipations of loss and failure. And this, Krishna tells him, is the root of all anxiety. Not the circumstances of life, not the difficulty of the task, not the uncertainty of the future, but the mind's refusal to be present, the mind's insistence on living in a future it cannot control or a past it cannot change, the mind's desperate attachment to outcomes, to identities, to images of how life is supposed to look. Think about your own anxiety for a moment. Really think about it. Where does it live? When you feel anxious, what is your mind actually doing? It is almost never responding to what is happening right now in this exact moment. It is constructing scenarios. It is rehearsing catastrophes. It is running calculations about futures that may never arrive. It is saying, "But what if this goes wrong? What if I lose this? What if I am not enough? What if everything falls apart? Your mind is not in the present. And because it is not in the present, it is suffering from things that do not yet exist. It is in pain from shadows. Krishna saw this thousands of years before neuroscience, thousands of years before cognitive behavioral therapy. He saw that the restless mind, the fluctuations of consciousness, is both the source of human suffering and the place where liberation begins. And the question he spent the entire Bhagavad Gita answering is this: how do you train a mind that has forgotten how to be still? Before we go deeper, I want to pause here for a moment, because this is not just philosophy to me, and I do not think it is just philosophy to you either, otherwise you would not still be here listening this carefully. So I want to ask you something directly. What is the greatest pain or spiritual challenge you are carrying right now? What is the thing that keeps your mind running when you want it to be quiet? What is the fear, the question, the uncertainty that lives in the background of your days? Write it in the comments. I mean that sincerely. Not because I have all the answers, but because naming what you carry is already the beginning of loosening its grip. And because you may find, in reading what others have written, that you are far less alone than your anxiety has led you to believe. Tell me where this message is reaching you today. What city, what country, what corner of the world? I would genuinely love to know. Now, let us go deeper, because what Krishna teaches about the mind is only the beginning, and the next layer of his wisdom is the one that I believe holds the most practical power for modern life. It comes in one of the most famous verses in all of human spiritual literature, a verse so simple that it is easy to pass over, a verse so radical that if you truly absorbed it, it would dissolve most of your anxiety on the spot. Krishna says to Arjuna, you have the right to perform your actions, but you're not entitled to the fruits of those actions. Do not let the fruits of action be your motive, and do not be attached to inaction. Read that again slowly. You have the right to act, but you do not own the outcome. Now, why is this so revolutionary? Because the way most of us live is the exact opposite of this teaching. We act because we want a specific result. We work because we want success. We love because we want to be loved in return. We try because we expect to succeed. And when the outcome does not match our expectation, when the result is different from what we planned, what we hoped for, what we felt we deserved, we collapse. We spiral. We tell ourselves we have failed. We feel the ground disappear beneath us. This is the architecture of modern anxiety. We are outcome obsessed. We have tied our peace, our sense of worth, our very identity to results we cannot fully control. And because we cannot control them, because life is genuinely, irreducibly uncertain, we are in a constant state of low-level terror. Every email you are waiting for, every relationship you are uncertain about, every plan that could go wrong, every dream that might not arrive on the schedule you imagined, every version of yourself you are afraid you might not become. All of it feeding the same engine, the engine of attachment to results. And Krishna is saying, this is the illusion you must see through, not because outcomes do not matter, not because effort does not matter, but because when you make the outcome the condition of your peace, you have handed the keys to your inner life to something you cannot govern. Think about what it would mean to truly internalize this teaching. It does not mean you stop caring. It does not mean you become passive or indifferent or cold. It means something far more nuanced and far more powerful. It means you bring your full presence, your full effort, your full heart to everything you do, and then you release. You let go of what you cannot control. You act from alignment rather than from fear. You work from love rather than from desperation. This is what Krishna calls nishkama karma action without selfish desire for results. And it is not weakness. It is one of the most difficult and most liberating practices a human being can undertake. Because the moment you release your grip on the outcome, truly release it, not there's resignation, but there's trust, something extraordinary happens. The anxiety begins to dissolve. Not because your circumstances have changed, but because you have changed. Because you are no longer fighting a war against an uncertain future. You are simply here, fully present, doing what you can do with what you have in this moment. And that is enough. Krishna says that has always been enough. But there is still something deeper. There is a layer beneath attachment, beneath the restless mind, beneath the fear of outcomes. And it is perhaps the most important teaching Krishna offers, and the one we are least prepared to hear. He says to Arjuna, the soul is never born, nor does it die. It is not slain when the body is slain. Now you might be thinking, what does that have to do with anxiety? With my overthinking, my fear, my exhaustion? Everything. Because underneath every anxiety, if you trace it far enough, you find the same root fear. The fear of annihilation. The fear of losing something essential. The fear that who you are, your safety, your worth, your very existence is fragile, is temporary, is always at risk. This is why the mind cannot stop calculating. This is why it cannot stop planning, worrying, bracing for impact. Because somewhere in its depths, it believes that you are this body, this personality, this collection of roles and achievements and relationships. And that belief makes everything feel desperately, urgently at stake. But Krishna says, you are not what you think you are. The Atman, the true self, the eternal self, is not your thoughts. It is not your emotions. It is not your achievements or your failures. It is not the image others have of you or the image you have of yourself. It is not your anxiety, no matter how loud it gets. The Atman is the witness, the awareness that watches thoughts arise and pass, the consciousness that has been present through every storm you have ever survived, the part of you that, in your deepest moments of stillness, you recognize as simply here, present, unchanging, whole. This is who you truly are. And this self cannot be destroyed. It cannot be diminished by failure. It cannot be contaminated by others' opinions. It cannot be taken away by loss, by change, by the relentless turning of circumstances. The Upanishads call it Sat Chit Ananda, pure being, pure consciousness, pure bliss, not a distant state to be achieved, but your actual nature, the ground beneath the noise. And when you begin to identify with that, when you begin to recognize yourself as the awareness rather than the content of the awareness, something shifts at the root of your experience. The anxiety does not disappear overnight. The thoughts do not stop, but they stop feeling like you. They start to feel like weather passing through a sky. And the sky, you, the witness, remains open, remains unbroken, remains at peace. This is what Krishna was pointing Arjuna toward in his darkest moment. Not a solution to his external problems, but a remembering of what he truly was. A remembering so fundamental that the external problems, however real, could no longer define him. This is what he is pointing you toward. Right now, there is one more teaching I want to offer you. One that ties everything together and makes it practical for the life you are actually living. It is the concept of Dharma. Dharma is often translated as duty, but that translation loses almost everything that makes the word alive. Dharma is closer to your deepest alignment, your truest calling, the specific way that you, as a unique expression of consciousness, are meant to meet this world. And one of the things that generates the most anxiety in modern life is precisely the feeling of being out of Dharma. of living in ways that do not match who we are, of performing roles, chasing goals, maintaining images, all of which were designed by someone else's expectations, someone else's fears, someone else's definition of success. When you are out of Dharma, nothing feels quite right. Not because you are failing, but because you are succeeding at the wrong thing. You are running a race on a track that was never built for you. And the exhaustion and emptiness that creates is often mistaken for depression or laziness or ingratitude. But it is not any of those things. It is the soul's intelligence, signaling that something is misaligned. Krishna tells Arjuna, it is better to do one's own Dharma imperfectly than to perform another's Dharma perfectly. This is one of the most countercultural statements in all of spiritual teaching. In a world that constantly asks you to be someone else, to measure yourself against external standards, to chase definitions of success that were never yours, Krishna says, go inward, find the thing that is true for you, and do that, even imperfectly, even without guarantee of reward. Because when you are aligned with your Dharma, when you are doing the thing you were made to do in the way only you can do it, the anxiety transforms. It does not disappear, but it changes in quality. It becomes something more like creative tension, like aliveness, like the particular electricity of being fully engaged with what matters. This is not the anxiety of a mind at war with itself. This is the energy of a person walking their true path. And that path begins not out there in the right job or the right relationship or the right circumstances. It begins in here, in the honest, courageous, tender act of asking yourself, what is true for me? What do I actually value? What does my soul recognize as its own? These are not easy questions, but they are the right ones. And the fact that you are here, listening to this, tells me that some part of you already knows they are worth asking. There is one final teaching that Krishna offers Arjuna, and it is perhaps the most misunderstood of all his words. He says, abandon all varieties of Dharma and simply surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Now, if you are not coming from a devotional tradition, the word surrender can feel threatening. It can sound like giving up, like weakness, like abandoning your autonomy and your agency. But Krishna means something entirely different. And when you understand what he means, it becomes one of the most freeing ideas you have ever encountered. Surrender, as Krishna teaches it, is not submission to an external force. It is the release of the ego's obsessive need to control everything. It is the recognition that you, the small, anxious, calculating self that spends all day trying to arrange life perfectly, are not the one running this universe. And that the energy beneath all things, the intelligence that beats your heart without your instruction and spins the planets without your planning, can be trusted. This is the deepest root of anxiety, the belief that if I stop worrying, if I stop controlling, if I stop managing every variable, everything will fall apart. That my vigilance is the only thing standing between me and catastrophe. And surrender says, let go of that. Not recklessly, not passively, but with the deep, earned trust of someone who has done their part and can now release the outcome to something larger than themselves. In practical terms, this means learning to act wholeheartedly and then release, to plan carefully and then hold your plans loosely, to care deeply and then allow what comes, to do your best and then genuinely, truly let it be enough. This is what Arjuna ultimately does. After listening to everything Krishna says, after all the teaching, all the revelation, all the philosophy, he picks up his bow, not because the fear has vanished, not because the uncertainty is resolved, but because he has found something more stable than certainty. He has found alignment. He has found surrender. he has found the ground of his own being. And from that ground, he acts. And from that ground, so can you. I want to close by speaking directly to you, not to a general audience, not to anyone else, to you, exactly as you are right now. If you have spent years fighting your own mind, you are not broken. If anxiety has followed you through your best moments and your hardest ones, you are not weak. If you have tried every technique, every self-help framework, every strategy, and still feel that something essential is missing, I want you to hear this. What is missing is not more discipline. It is not more effort. It is not one more tool or hack or practice. What is missing is the recognition of who you actually are. You are not the anxious thoughts. You are not the fear. You are not the worst version of yourself that anxiety conjures at 3 a.m. You are not the sum of your unfinished business, or your unresolved questions, or your unmet expectations. You are the awareness that has survived every storm you feared would destroy you. You are the consciousness that right now, in this very moment, is capable of witnessing its own pain without being consumed by it. You are, as Krishna told Arjuna thousands of years ago, something that cannot be broken. And from that unbreakable ground, you can move, you can act, you can show up for your life fully, presently, without waiting for the anxiety to disappear first. The peace you are looking for is not on the other side of your problems. It is not waiting for you in a future moment when everything has finally been resolved. It is available here, now, in the recognition of the self that was never lost, only forgotten. This is what Krishna teaches about anxiety. Not that it is shameful, not that it should be suppressed, but that it is a messenger pointing inward, pointing home, pointing to the stillness that has always been there, beneath the noise, waiting to be recognized. You have always been that stillness. You have simply forgotten. And remembering that is the whole practice. That is the whole path. If this message reached something in you, if it touched a place that needed to be touched, I want to ask you to do something simple. Subscribe to this channel. Leave a like, not for me, but so that this teaching finds its way to someone else who is carrying what you have been carrying. Someone who is lying awake tonight, feeling alone in their anxiety, not yet knowing that help has been waiting for them for thousands of years. We are building something here that is not just content. It is a community of people choosing together to go deeper, to ask the harder questions, to find the kind of peace that does not depend on circumstances. That is the work, and I'm grateful you are part of it. Until next time, be still, be kind to yourself, and remember who you are.